Well, tonight's class is on the mouth. So dental health, oral hygiene, and it's a really important topic. Too bad there's not more people here, but it's one of those things where I think we really have to seriously look at oral health, because we've been brushing our teeth and flossing our teeth and doing all the things we know how to do for how long? Like forever, right? But about 90% of Americans have dental problems. So the question is, like, what the heck's going on? Like, if you talk to almost anybody, they've had a cavity or a crown or a bridge or a something. So there's something going on. So we really need to figure out why, like our conventional methods aren't necessarily working. Does anyone have an idea of the main reason people have so many dental problems? Anyone want to take a stab at it?
Drinking a lot of pop probably has a lot.
Okay.
Too much sugar probably does.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's related to our body, right?
Right. What do you mean by that? Like the health of our body?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Were you going to say something?
I was.
Oh, yes.
I was going to say that the toothpaste that we have, usually use, is also not good for you. It has a lot of chemicals in it,
Right.
and that probably contributes to the problem that we have with our mouths.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to talk about.
What was weird to me is reading the thing on a toothpaste
Yes.
tube. Try to say that.
Toothpaste tube.
Anyhow, it says that if you take too much of it, call the poison control center.
I know.
Does
Isn't
it
that
really?
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Isn't that crazy?
I never noticed
I
that.
know.
Yeah.
But remember, it's okay as long as you don't swallow it. It's
Yeah.
okay in your mouth. Just don't swallow it. You'll be good.
How
Yeah.
can you not swallow some of it?
I know.
Yeah.
Well, the
It's-
other thing is, how about the children, 5,
And little
3,
kids
4,
using
5.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're absolutely
We'll
right.
talk more about that stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about Weston Price. You don't have to flip there. You can if you want, but there's a little picture of him here. Weston Price. Has anybody heard of Weston Price? You have. Cool. Okay, there's a Weston Price Foundation, and I highly recommend you. I don't think I put the website on here, but it's Weston A, the letter A, westonaprice.org. Highly, highly, highly recommend you going to that. I have read through his complete website and pretty much agree with everything he says. This guy was brilliant. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration, which is a great quote. And Weston Price really fits that, because he was a dentist, and he goes, why the heck do so many people have so many problems with their teeth? He really wanted an answer. He didn't want to just boop, boop, fix you up. Okay, see you next time you have a cavity. He really wanted to figure out what is going on with America and why so many, and this is back in the 30s. So what he did is he researched, and genius, 99% perspiration. He traveled all over the world and studied 14 different indigenous cultures living in their natural environment. Everything from Native Americans to Eskimos to the whatever pygmy tribe living in the bush in the middle of nowhere, okay? Because he wanted to get kind of a varied sample of these different groups of people all around the world and see what kind of tooth problems they had. What do you think he found?
They didn't have as many problems probably Americans do.
Absolutely. In fact, they almost had no problems at all. He said that he would have to look in at least 3, usually 4 mouths to find one single cavity. And he was hard-pressed to even find that. And it wasn't just that, it was just that he could tell that the people were healthier, and he could tell the healthier the person was, the healthier their mouth was. Okay, so just like you were saying, there's a big-time link between our teeth and the rest of our body and our teeth. So in other words, just to explain this real quick, because I think it's a fascinating fact, each tooth has 2 miles of nerve connected to it. 2 miles of nerve connected to it.
Wow.
That goes throughout your whole body. Okay? And every tooth is connected to different body parts. So, for example, one can cause the other and vice versa. So in other words, you can have a bad infection in a tooth, and it can cause a problem in your liver. At the same time, you can be an alcoholic and destroy your liver, and it's going to cause those teeth that are connected to your liver to rot. So everything's connected. Just like, we did the face analysis class, I don't know, whoever was here for that. Everything you can look at the face ties to a part of the body. You can look at the tongue and tie it to the body. The hands, reflexology, the feet, iridology, the eyes. Okay, so many different body parts reflect the entire system of the body. The teeth also do that. Okay, it's really cool. I have some gallstones that I've been trying to flush out of my system. These two teeth right here, you can see the dark stain on them, which is from my gallstones. So you can see stuff in the body just by looking at people's teeth. There's actually groups of holistic dentists that's what they do. They analyze people based on their teeth, the health of their teeth. So in other words, clean up your mouth, you can clean up the health of your body, and vice versa. Okay, so that's really important to know. I do a lot of testing with the biomeridian machine, and the biomeridian machine is really cool because you can actually go in there and check for different types of materials and things that they use in dentistry that might be interfering with your function of your body. And you can also find out which teeth are weak and what body part that ties to. It's really cool. So anyway, back to Weston Price. So he went to all these different cultures, and the way he described it, it's pretty funny. He said, yes, I found some very green teeth, almost completely moss covered. But beneath them was a fine, strong tooth planted firmly in a strong jaw. Okay? So like we have this perception that like if you have any little bit of anything on your mouth, like your mouth's dirty and you like need to clean it. Okay? Well, again, it goes back to diet. I mean, you guys all hit it on the head. It's nutrition. It all comes down to nutrition. And that's his whole foundation of his organization, why he started his not-for-profit organization, was to teach people that nutrition is the foundation for health, which we always go back to every class we talk to, regardless of what it is. You can take all kinds of great supplements. You can buy natural toothpaste. You can buy all kinds of great products for whatever your concern is. But if you don't look at the way you eat, you're not going to be healthy. That is the key. So it's obviously something going on in the American food supply, which we've talked about many times. Also, the other correlation he found is that all these different 14 cultures, he said cancer and heart disease were almost unknown in those cultures. Very, very, very rare. And the other thing, and this is random, not even related to health, but I just thought it was kind of interesting, he said crime was unknown to these cultures. They didn't even have a word for jail or prison in all of these different cultures. What a concept, huh? So, and then he noted that the difference in the quantity of foods. He actually looked at the foods they were consuming and saw how many nutrients they were compared to the American diet. And he said they were at least 4 times the amount of water-soluble vitamins and 10 times the amount of fat-soluble vitamins in the foods they were eating. Because like I always preach, we need to eat foods from the earth, the way God originally created them. All this processed food is what's destroying our mouth. So, and then another correlation he made is he said that within one generation of separation from the native culture diet, instantly you had tooth decay and tooth problems. One generation. And I think about America. I think about how, we were farmers, basically farm country up until, I don't know, the 50s, 60s probably for the most part. So within 1 or 2 generations, I mean, our disease rates have gone through the roof, our dental problems have gone through the roof, just getting away from farming, getting away from fresh foods and eating processed foods. So real quick on the foods, yeah, you guys hit it, on the head. The keys are acidic foods. I mean, enamel is crazy strong substance. I mean, it's like bone, and it's very, very hard to wear that down and break that down. So, again, why do we have so many problems in America? I can't believe I haven't had more cavities. I mean, I grew up drinking soda, and I've only had 2 cavities in my whole life. It's like an absolute miracle. But the soda, the acid, the constant bombardment of acid on our teeth, and coffee, drinking coffee every single morning, all that acid totally wears down the tooth enamel. And then even lemon, drinking lemon juice. So one of the best tricks you can do is just swishing. After you drink coffee or soda, if you think about it, or after a meal, just swish your mouth and rinse your mouth out. Okay, that's very important. Forever, there's this misconception that sugars cause cavities. It has nothing to do with the sugar that causes cavities, because you're not going to get a cavity unless that enamel actually wears off. It's the acid that causes that. It's the sugar that causes the infections in the rest of the mouth, and the gums, and the deep infections, the periodontal disease, and things like that. I'm going to introduce Kelly real quick. You don't have to come up and talk or anything if you don't want, but she works for a dentist in Lawrence, and they do holistic dentistry, and we're going to talk about mercury here in a minute, and they do mercury-free, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the dental materials, and they even have a BPA-free. We've talked about BPA in class before, bisphenol A, which is a plastic, which is estrogenic, and they have BPA-free, even composite fillings that they can do in place of the mercury. So do you just want to say something real quick?
Well, if I had certainly any questions or anything, I can answer those, but it's been really interesting. I've been 2 years out of school, and when I was in school, I pretty much learned to put in the mercury fillings, and I probably only got to do a handful of composites, so it's interesting how
Yeah, that's kind
slow certain institutions and things are to change, so I'm excited to be getting into this and seeing a whole new side of dentistry.
Yeah, and it's that they're slow to change, but it's that people don't like to admit their mistakes.
Sure.
So that kind of is what happens, and it's so inundated in everything. It's like you talk about a major, wide-scale change, and a lot of times organizations don't like that. So when it comes to the fillings, I mean, there's a lot of materials in dental work that causes problems. I mean, it's really interesting. I do the biomeridian machine, and it'll pull up something. I'll be like, "Do you have a, it'll pull up wire brace?" And she's like, "Yeah, I had one a couple years ago or whatever." Well, the machine detected it. So something that was in the metal in that wire brace was detecting in her system. So these things really do get trapped in the tissues of our system. And we're going to watch a video about mercury. I think another one to mention, I don't think I put a thing on here. I probably should have, because I have literally 100 articles on fluoride. But big controversy on fluoride. Let me just tell you the background of fluoride real quick. I think a lot of people find this interesting. If you look at the chemical chart, the mineral actually found naturally in nature is fluorine, not fluoride. Fluorides are compound chemicals that can be derived naturally in nature. However, the fluoride that is in our food supply and then in a lot of dentist office is a byproduct of the aluminum industry. So there's thousands of articles showing this, but there's a big battle right now trying to get fluoride out of people's water supplies because it's so dangerous. And finally, after 40 years of fighting and preaching and studies, the FDA finally recommended, did you guys hear this? Finally said that too much fluoride can cause health concerns. Finally. I mean, it takes forever, but basically it takes enough public outcry. And we finally got to that point. Not that everybody's going to stop using it or anything, because I have people all the time call. They're like, "I'm at the dentist and they want to use fluoride on all 3 of my kids," and I'm like, "Well, it's your choice. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they have it so ingrained in their brain from the ADA, the American Dental Association, that you have to have fluoride for strong teeth, which again is ridiculous. I mean, you go back to these 14 cultures. Do you think they were pounding fluoride? I mean, that doesn't even make sense. You know what I mean? So we just get things trapped in our brain, and it's hard to kind of get out of that loop sometimes. And fluoride is one of those things. But in World War II, Alcoa, which is a big aluminum company, if anybody's heard of that, they were a main supplier of aluminum, which was an ingredient they used to make the atomic bomb. Okay, well, they were producing so much aluminum for the bombs that they had fluoride. This fluoride is a negative, it's basically like a waste byproduct of the aluminum industry. And it was so toxic that they couldn't dump it anywhere. The government was having a hard time finding a place to dump it. So what they did is they published some studies that said, I don't know who thought of the idea, but basically they published some studies saying that fluoride's good for the teeth. and they started putting it in the water supply, so they had a place to dump this toxic waste from the aluminum industry.
Jeez.
And it's still going on today. It's still going on today. And I literally have probably more articles on fluoride. Actually, aspartame is probably the only other thing I have more articles on than fluoride and the dangers of fluoride. Just causes so many different health conditions in people. It's unbelievable. But again, just like I've talked about in classes before, the FDA doesn't regulate chronic poisons. They regulate acute poisons. Okay, does that make sense? Do you guys know what that means? Okay, so acute poison is something you're going to drink and you're going to die. You drink a glass of arsenic, you drink a glass of mercury, you're going to die. But a little mercury and a little filling, well, that's not going to kill you. So
Only the things that kill you a little bit at a time.
exactly, exactly. So the chronic poisons, you know, if you don't have an immediate effect, immediate reaction, immediate sickness, immediate in the hospital, the FDA lets it slide. And that's one of the big differences between our country and a lot of other countries. I mean, you go to Europe and they don't use that stuff. Aspartame's illegal. MSG. They protest over genetically modified foods. You know, they don't let that stuff go. We do. We're just kind of lazy. We're Americans, whatever.
They allow high fructose corn syrup.
High fructose corn syrup. Yep, all that. So they fight all that
Well,
stuff.
plus we don't get the information either. I mean,
Exactly.
I think most people don't realize it.
Yeah,
so-
I think
Yeah,
definitely,
you're
because it's not
right.
mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know what their media is like. If maybe they're a little more open to that stuff, I'm not sure. But that's a good question, actually. So anyway, so mercury, that's the other big one, and you know, another just fascinating thing, like this, it defies logic that if you're a dentist and you have mercury that gets exposed, you know, it's an immediate hazard, and you have to like call the hazard poison control,
Right.
you know,
You have
but
to drop your thermometer.
or if you drop your thermometer, you're supposed to call poison control.
Good
Right.
thing you put it.
But if you have it in your mouth, it's safe.
Yeah.
It just defies logic, you know. But people say things and people believe them, and they just accept it. So I don't get that. But I want to show you this video real quick on mercury.
So all mercury silver fillings leak substantial amounts of mercury constantly. The amount increases with any kind of stimulation, and as a result, mercury from fillings produces the majority of human exposure to mercury. The International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology is extremely concerned about the anecdotal claims of safety by manufacturers and dental trade associations. There are variants with the published peer-reviewed scientific evidence to the contrary. The precautionary principle requires action once the possibility of harm exists. It does not require proof beyond a shadow of a doubt that in the case of heavy metal and xenobiotic exposure is both nearly impossible and unnecessary, in our opinion. What you're seeing is mercury vapor coming off a 25-year-old silver amalgam filling in an extracted tooth.
25-year-old.
The background is a phosphorescent screen. The mercury vapor absorbs the fluorescent light, and you can see it as a shadow on the screen. This is mercury coming off a filling that was dipped in water that's the same temperature as the human body. This is a filling that was rubbed with a pencil eraser for just a few seconds. Like going to the hygienist and having her clean your teeth. These are not small amounts of mercury. If you can see it, it's more than 1,000 times higher than the Environmental Protection Agency will allow for the air that we breathe. What about the last time you went to the dentist and they drilled on your tooth? Here is the mercury vapor every time you raise the temperature to 110 degrees with hot coffee or warm water, or even chewed on it. Mercury comes off fillings every time you stimulate them, and that stimulation causes the mercury to continue to leak out of the fillings for an hour and a half at a minimum. Some people grind their teeth. Some people chew gum. The dentist might send an old gold crown to the dental lab to be welded. How about the dental personnel? They're not being given informed consent. Back in 1985, the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology set out to determine the amount of mercury that was coming off fillings. And here's the graph, showing substantial quantities of mercury were measured coming off fillings. and then we estimated the total dose. Then we began animal experiments and put radioactive fillings in sheep. Mercury accumulated in the jaw, stomach, liver, and kidney of the sheep in just 30 days. Substantial quantities of mercury spread from the fillings to every organ in that sheep's body. This should be of concern for everyone. Then we measured that the sheep's kidneys dropped in their ability by 60% to clear inulin, an indication of kidney malfunction. Whole body imaging of monkeys found exactly the same thing. Proponents of amalgam fillings claim that sheep chew too much. Well, what's the problem with monkeys? They had mercury in their jaw, kidneys, liver, intestine, and heart. And further research found dystrophic bacteria that were antibiotic resistant cropped up in the intestines within 2 weeks of receiving these mercury-leaking fillings. Further studies have found damage to the ADP ribosylation of brain neuron proteins. In response to the controversy, and at the request of the Federation of Experimental Scientists and Biologists, Drs. Fitzlow Scheider and Murray Vimy wrote an editorial, the first ever in FASEB, that point by point refuted the claims of the amalgam proponents. In 1991, the World Health Organization acknowledged that the predominant source of human exposure to mercury is from your fillings. That should be of concern to anyone wanting to have healthy children, because mercury is highly damaging to fetuses. Experiments in sheep showed that mercury from the sheep's fillings transferred immediately to the placenta, to the unborn fetus, and to every conceivable portion of the fetus's body. It even increased in the lamb higher after birth from mercury in the mother's milk. There's no such thing as a safe mercury filling. All mercury fillings leak mercury. The combined effect of mercury, cadmium, and lead is just now being investigated, but it's not 1 and 1. It's synergistic, and 1 and 1 may make 100 or even 1,000. Why is that of concern? Over and over again, we've heard that children are exposed to lead from our environment. Mercury and lead is many times more toxic than just mercury alone. These black, corroded, pitted mercury fillings are used where you must drill away 1/3 of the tooth in order to fix a pinhead-sized cavity. Even if you love mercury, it's the wrong thing to do to the children. It leads to broken, diseased, root canal extracted teeth throughout the rest of the life. It's a blunder that costs the child all through their life. Millions and millions of dollars are spent annually fixing teeth again and again. And dentists don't follow the manufacturer's recommendations. They pack mercury in children around gold crowns, underneath bridges. They stuff it around the gum line in contact with tissues. There's mercury spreading from this gold crown to every tissue in that patient's body. Even if you like mercury fillings, putting that kind of filling in the tooth is simply the wrong thing to do. Harold Lowe, the former director of the National Institute of Dental Research back in 1993, wrote, "The first filling is a critical step in the life of a tooth. Using amalgam for the first filling requires removing a lot of tooth substance, not only diseased tooth substance, but healthy tooth substance as well. So in making the undercuts, you sacrifice a lot, and this results in a weakened tooth. The next thing you know, the tooth breaks off, and you need a crown. Then you need to repair the crown. And so it continues to the stage where there's no more to repair, and you pull the tooth. With the first filling, you should do something that can either restore the tooth or retain more healthy tooth substance. Use new materials, composites, or materials that can bond to the surface without undercuts. You can do this with little removal of the tooth substance so that the core of the tooth is still there. I would add that the cost of all that dental repair over and over again makes the cost of mercury fillings enormous, even if you don't consider the neurological impairment and the brain damage that they surely cause in dental personnel, and the infertility and the heartbreak that they've caused to so many families. It is the opinion of this Academy that responsible government agencies should prohibit the use of these fillings until such time as their manufacturers produce the alleged evidence of safety.
Now the method you guys use is that second one where they were talking about, right? Where they, you don't drill away at the tooth, you actually preserve the tooth and just fill it in, and yeah. Yeah, so that's the way to go. Cool, so interesting? Yeah.
I wonder why there's not more dentists that do that. I mean, you couldn't even find anybody else here in Kansas City.
Yeah, there's Lighthouse Dental in Kansas City, and then there's them. Those are the only two I could find.
It's very against what you learn.
Is it?
And I'd say too, you have to be careful about how you present things, because depending on how I say it and recommend things, I can get in trouble with the dental board and lose my license.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
you have to be
Tricky.
careful.
So for people that already have those fillings and like have caps over them, then they have to have them all removed and.
It's hard to know what's underneath there too if you're
Yeah.
not sure until you
Yeah.
take it off. Unfortunately, it's not going
Yeah.
to show up in an X-ray or anything.
No way to tell what type of
Unless
filling was
with any of your
used.
testing, you can tell if there's something underneath, say a gold.
Yeah, I might be able to see what different kinds of materials are in there, but yeah. It's hard to know 100% for sure, but. So,
Yeah.
cool. Just another example of dental materials and the body. Linda showed me this example. She works next door. And she had a gal whose body was completely riddled with parasites. And no doctor could figure out why, or she took all kinds of anti-parasite stuff. I mean, bad, where it's like hamburger face, like it was coming out her skin. I mean, bad parasites all the way up and down her body. And nobody could figure out what it was. And they did the biomeridian test and found all kinds of materials. Where'd you come from? All kinds of materials in that patient's mouth. And so she went and literally got all of the metal and bridge work and everything taken out of her mouth. The parasites in her body completely healed in 1 month. Completely gone. Completely gone. So those materials were attracting the parasites. Just like if you heard when they did that study with the monkeys, that when they had those mercury fillings in, within 2 weeks, that monkey started growing abnormal bacterial growth in an unhealthy way. So, and I've talked about that in candida classes before too. People with candida and fungal infections, mercury in the mouth. Candida is always there for a reason. Bacteria is always there for a reason. It's a cleanup crew. It's what breaks down stuff naturally in nature. So if you have toxic things in your body, that bacteria is going to grow to try to eliminate whatever that material is. But it's not going to be able to get rid of the mercury, so it's just going to be there and cause a problem and cause a nuisance. So things you can do. There's I think it's like on the second page, dental protection ideas. Natural things you can do, because just as Angelita wisely mentioned, if you're using AIM or Aquafresh or any one of those other things, you know, they're not good. They're all just companies marketing and advertising. Procter & Gamble, I mean, most of them are made by the same companies. And, you know, they almost all have fluoride. And, you know, if it says poisonous if swallowed, and you're having your kids brush your teeth, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me. But, and then people actually say, oh, well, he doesn't swallow it. Okay. I guess people don't realize that anything that touches your mouth or your body goes straight, your skin goes straight into your body. And that's why we take herbs under the tongue, because it immediately goes into the bloodstream. So what are you doing when you're using Aquafresh? You know, same exact thing. So some of the things you can do, you can use, there's natural mouthwashes and toothpaste. They're going to have herbs in it that have been used forever, like myrrh, been around forever. Clove has been known to help with dental issues forever. So there's toothpaste and mouthwashes that have those types of ingredients in it. The couple other things that are really, really good to do that are super cheap is good old hydrogen peroxide, 3% hydrogen peroxide, because it's so antibacterial. It'll kill all the bacteria and stuff in your mouth, especially if you're eating a lot of sugar and white processed foods and things like that. And then salt water too. Saltwater rinse will work really good for that too. Real quick, I just want to mention Linda again next door. She does thermography. And thermography is a heat scan of the body. And this was pretty cool. She took some pictures. We did a class over there, and she did some pictures. And she did a picture of our jaw. And you can see if you have inflammation around your mouth. Okay, so they'll be red all around your mouth if you have bacterial infections and things like that around your mouth. And so she took a picture of mine, and I had, not bad, but I had some red around. And what's really wild is when people have really bad infections, you can literally see the infection going all the way down into their body. So again, how the problems with the mouth can be connected to problems with the body. So I did oil pulling, which is something that they use in India forever. For thousands of years, they've been oil pulling, where they take oil and they swish it around in their mouth. They've been doing it forever. Well, now with modern technology, we have microscopes. So you actually look at that oil that you've swished around in your mouth for 10 minutes under a microscope. Everything you can possibly imagine. Pulls out pharmaceutical drugs, herbicides, pesticides, all different types of chemicals, toxins, heavy metals are in the oil. Okay? Because remember, toxins store in the fat cells of the body. So swishing oil or consuming good essential fatty acids is a key tool to pulling those fat-soluble toxins out of your system. Okay, so that's a really good technique. So anyway, I did oil pulling for 3 weeks. Every morning, just 10 minutes. I would just do a little bit of oil and then hop in my car and 10 minutes to work. And so I 10 minutes every morning I do oil pulling. In 3 weeks, we did another thermography. My mouth was totally blue. There was zero inflammation anywhere around my mouth. In 3 weeks of oil pulling.
What kind of oil did you use?
Sesame oil is the best. Okay, sesame oil has the most drawing power
Okay.
and the most antibacterial power. Now you can use olive oil, you can use coconut oil, you can use all kinds of stuff, but sesame oil, from what I know, is the best.
And what brand did you?
I have Flora. It's a raw, unprocessed, cold press, that whole deal. So I have that, but just make sure it's cold pressed, unrefined, raw.
Okay.
Yeah. Flora is the company that I really like. And then if you have an infection, I mean, that's great, you know, for just overall mouth health and infections and things like that. It can literally save somebody from getting a root canal. It can pull up deep infections. But if you have a deep infection or something really bad you want to work on, add some clove. Add some oregano, okay? Something that has a really, really powerful antibacterial property. So like a few drops of oregano with the oil and swish that and do that every day. Oh yeah, you can save people a lot of problems with infectious issues in the mouth. So colloidal silver works. Oregadent is a product I use quite a bit, again for people with really deep infections. It's got the oregano, it's got cloves, it's got cinnamon. It even has a pain root, which is an herb that literally helps, it's an anti-inflammatory, it helps relieve pain in the mouth. So those are some really good natural things that we can do for mouth health as well. And I don't think I have much else. Do you guys have any questions or anything? Yeah.
Does your testing show if you have, because I did have my mercury fillings taken out about
Right.
4 years ago.
Right.
But I'm just wondering how much mercury toxic is in my system.
Yeah, the best way to find out, I believe, a true test for mercury toxicity is a hair mineral analysis.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I do the hair mineral analysis, and that'll tell you if you have mercury, lead, cadmium, nickel. It'll tell you a range of heavy metals because they deposit in your tissues, as heavy metals do. So the hair analysis is a real good indicator for those heavy metals. Yeah. You hear the birds chirping. Anything else?
I
Yeah.
would say one thing I was really interested in hearing about knowing your herbal background was as far as the natural toothpaste and things. There's a bunch on the shelves. If there's any particular brand that you really like, or if they're all basically good if they have certain components in them.
Yeah, you know, they're not all necessarily good. You really got to read the ingredients. Some of those chemicals, like the sodium lauryl sulfate and things like that, you'll actually see that in even the natural toothpaste sometimes. So you really want to read the labels. I just have one brand just because it's called Vitamir. And they're based out of Las Vegas, and I lived in Vegas for 7 years. And I worked at a health food store, and we had multiple toothpaste. We sold cases of that every week because it just worked for everybody's mouth issues. And they would use the toothpaste and the mouthwash, and it just worked wonders. So that's the one I was mentioning. It has clove and myrrh and things like that, and it works really, really good. So that's the only one I have because it works. You know, I don't need to have a bunch of different ones. But if you go to the store, there's Tom's and there's a lot of different ones, and they're kind of expensive. But Periobrite's a really good one. If anybody's ever seen that, it's a really good product. I'm not exactly sure of all the other ones, but yeah.
I don't know if it'd be appropriate to share my experience of getting all my amalgam out of my mouth
Sure.
that I did have done at the Lighthouse. Dr. Ferguson.
Yep.
I was referred to, and I did, they did whatever test is called, to find out how much mercury was coming out of my mouth. And
Right.
I was that ton of it. You could see the little pictures.
Okay.
So they did a whole analysis on my mouth first to begin with. And then he said that this is kind of interesting. I forgot my other dentist, his name, the one that I went to before I went to Dr. Ferguson. But anyhow, he had told me that he would just remove the amalgam and put in composite. And I think that's important because I think we need to find out who this dentist is. I can't remember his name. He was my dentist for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. But anyhow, Dr. Ferguson, he had also told me, the dentist that I had told me that I needed like 4 crowns. And so when I went to Dr. Ferguson, he said, well, that one fella is kind of big. He said, but I think we can just remove it and put composite in it. He said, I don't think you have any need for crowns, so get a second opinion, I guess. Is an idea that, you might consider, because otherwise I would have had 4 crowns to the tune, I don't know, 8,000, 6,000. I
Wow.
can't remember, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Dr. Ferguson, what he does, and he has an assistant, they have like a little teeny little vacuum cleaner they put in your mouth. They have a vacuum cleaner in the room, the special, so that it will take all the amalgam, the mercury as they're removing it. It goes into that suction machine, and completely different suction from the room. I had this little thing in my mouth for suctioning on the amalgam as they removed it. Dr. Ferguson and the assistant both had these masks that looked like the military, when they were removing this amalgam. They did have my mouth one day, and one week, and the other mouth, the other side, the next week. But anyhow, my former dentist would have just removed the amalgam, and it would have been all over the place in his office, in him, in the staff, everything. And I would have, breathed a whole bunch more. So going to one that's properly prepared.
That's where I went to, Dr. Ferguson.
Don't you?
I liked it, yes.
Yeah, Dr.
Cool.
Ferguson, and I don't know of anybody else. I think there's another one in Wichita or something like that. But there's not that many of these doctors in the world.
Very true.
Did insurance pay for it?
Yes, mine did. I have Delta Dental with the military.
Oh, yeah.
So they did. They paid quite a not for the whole thing.
Yeah, but they did pay some.
Oh yeah, they did much better than the office thought they would do.
Good deal. Well, we only have a couple classes left. Only doing classes through May, and we're taking a break for summer. So, and the Fun Friday that we normally do, I don't think we're doing in June because Angel and I are both going to be gone. So, FYI. But we'll send an email out to everyone.
Dr. Vaughn, did you have any other ideas? We mentioned at the beginning, why is our why is our dental health so bad here in the United States? Can you add to diet or?
I would honestly just say eat a whole foods, plant-based diet. That's really all there is to it. I'd say the most important thing, okay, since I haven't talked about water and minerals this class, and I do every class, so thank you, Angelita, is we're the only mammals on the planet silly enough to drink anything besides water. Okay? If we only drank water, we would not have completely eroded all the enamel off our teeth, and we wouldn't have cavities. It's really as simple as that. Again, Dr. Price studied 14 different cultures and had every 4 people he'd maybe find 1 cavity. So because they don't have coffee and soda and everything else that we drink. So yeah, I would say the number 1 key would be to really drink water and stay away from all those acidic beverages. And if you are going to drink a cup of coffee in the morning or whatever, just rinse your mouth out after that, or even brush your teeth after that. Get that acid off your. Well, actually, I take that back. They say not to brush your teeth after consuming acidic beverages because that acid's on there, and you're going to brush that enamel right off. So it's just swish, just rinse your mouth, just rinse your mouth with water. So I'd say that's the number one thing, and then the second thing obviously would be all the sugar in our diet. That's what's just causing all the bacterial infections in our gums. So the white flour, the white processed sugar.
I was expecting also some comments from you maybe on the health of the tongue.
The health of the tongue.
Well, sure.
Oh, I guess it was about the mouth, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tonsils, how many people have tonsils that have been removed, including myself.
Right.
I mean, all that has a purpose.
Yeah, well, tonsils is actually your number one line of defense for your lymphatic system.
Wonderful.
So that's why so many people have inflamed tonsils, is because it's fighting infection. It's doing its job. It's doing what it's supposed to do. So by ripping it out, all you do is allow the infection to enter your body and to go deep into your body, which is going to manifest later into something more serious. So if you have inflamed tonsils, you need to deal with why you're getting an infection and assist the process to remove the infection, not remove the tonsils. Of course, that just doesn't make any logical sense. But again, doctors, it took them about 60 years, but now they admit that tonsils do serve a purpose. It's amazing. They actually admitted that the appendix serves a purpose. Imagine that. Oh my gosh, God gave us all these parts for a reason. So.
So actually, a lot of people that have problems, that have had their tonsils out, actually have problems with their lymphatic system, is what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah, they'll have blockages in the lymphatic system. Now, some people will never notice it.
Sure.
Because again, it's gone, so you don't see the symptoms of it. But infection's more easier to get into the body, and it can manifest later into something more serious. Okay, but if they don't have, that's the whole thing. If people don't feel symptoms, they don't think they have anything wrong with them.
If you read some old books from in medicine, one of the things that they were always talking about, I'm still going back to the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing the doctor would say was stick out your tongue.
Yeah.
Okay, now what is it that they were really looking for? If it was coated, if it was...
No, the doctors don't really look at coated tongues.
They don't do that
They're looking
anymore.
at your throat and tonsils. Yeah, they're looking for something back here. They don't look at the tongue. I mean, that's like Chinese medicine, tongue analysis.
Oh, maybe
You find grooves in the tongue.
analysis.
Yeah, like deep grooves in the tongue. Dehydration, cracks in the tongue along the sides of the tongue. Thick coating on the tongue. If it's white, the body's trying to push out toxins and poisons. Yellow, thick coating tongue is bile. If you have a bile backup in your system, liver, gallbladder's not functioning properly. Dots on the tongue, that's just eating too much sugar and your body's not able to process it. It's too many processed foods. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can see on the tongue as well. Color, you want a nice pink tongue, shows a good healthy tongue. It can be purple and other colors. So
Well, I've had a captive here.
purple's going to show a lack of circulation in the body. Like if you go like this, and you got purple under here, that's a poor circulation. There's a lot more, but Chinese medicine, it's a whole, again, I always make the example of, before we had all this modern technology, like the doctor actually had to look at the person to figure out what's wrong with them and actually analyze the person, So that's why they're so good at the face analysis and the tongue analysis and everything else.
One of my biggest problems with my mouth and my teeth is receding gums.
Mm-hmm.
Would you address the issue
Well,
of receding gums?
that's going to be the sugar and things. So you need antibacterial, because that's bacteria eating away at your gums, and also just your teeth weakening, and causing your gums to recede. So all the same things we talked about: doing the oil pulling, making sure you're doing something antibacterial, to strengthen back up your gums, getting rid of bacterial infections in your gums and your mouth.
Is it also true that when you have receding gums, that it's mainly because your bones are osteoporotic or osteopenic?
Yeah, like I said, your teeth are weakening. Yeah, your teeth are weakening.
Oh, but I was thinking more the jaw, not the tooth.
Well, I mean, that's all part of your bone structure, But yeah, osteoporosis definitely can cause that. So what is that? That's an acidic diet, right? Acidic diet pulls calcium from the bones.
Isn't that weird? I didn't think I was that bad in years gone by.
Well, the dentist always tells you too when they clean your teeth, if you have periodontal disease, when it gets down in your teeth, it starts eating away at the bone. The bacteria does.
Yeah.
So that causes the
Absolutely.
deeper pockets and eats the bone away from underneath the tooth.
Yeah.
So-
Good point. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, strong antibacterial. Just start doing that stuff. The oil pull. It's not hard.
I started doing that, and what I had was, I have like a tooth here and a tooth here that kind of go up like this and into my ear.
Yeah.
Then from my ear down here, and all these glands will get swollen, that's all get out.
Yeah.
Well, I started doing the oil pulling, And that is receding, it is going away, but then I quit probably last week.
Oh, yeah.
And now I can feel it again. I thought I have to go back, but I think I'm gonna try also with the oregano
Yeah, totally.
or the cloves.
Absolutely. So, you know, when you get that infection, again, the body has to figure out a way to deal with it. So that's your lymph glands swelling to try to eliminate that toxicity.
Now that I think about it, I think my biomeridium, I think, showed that it was something wrong with the tooth, though. The
Could be.
dental problem
Yeah.
rather than infection.
Right. But it's always an infection. I mean, that's always what it is that causes it.
Yeah, I have to process all that carbon mushroom.
Yeah.
So there's a lot.
It's always an underlying infection. You know?
Silly question, after you squish the oil, you just.
Spit it out. Yeah. That stuff's full of gunk.
Okay.
Absolutely. No, good question.
Okay.
Yeah,
The other-
you
the other
wanna
comment
discard that far away.
The other comment about the oil pulling that Dr. Lund mentioned before was only take a teaspoon, because by the time it combines, after 10 minutes, combines with saliva and everything else.
Yeah.
You got a lot in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people can't do it in 10 minutes, but you know, just as long as you can do it.
Pretty soon it
But
explodes.
does.
Yeah.
It
Fizz
does.
everywhere. Comes out your nose.
If somebody was gonna use, just hydrogen peroxide,
Yeah.
how much would they use?
It doesn't matter. It's just you just get the 3% hydrogen peroxide, probably like a tablespoon.
3%.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to, dilute it in water.
Nope.
They tell you to on the bottle, but you don't have to.
Yeah, you don't really have to. You'll feel it. It'll
Yeah.
sting. It'll kind of sting your mouth. You can feel it. Now that's something you don't want to swallow. You don't want to swallow 3% hydrogen peroxide.
That's the one that you find at the store.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's not food
yeah.
grade.
I have 35% food grade, but you'd have to buy a bottle of it and dilute it, and I'd have to show you how to use it and all that. You can use that in enemas and put it in water. You can do all kinds of things with it, but that's a whole process. Just get the 3% at the drugstore. It's okay.
3%.
As long as you're not
I'm gonna
consuming
use
it.
I
If you-
have the sesame oil that I got from you, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna use that. That's the best.
You said it stings a little bit, so if you can't tolerate that, can you dilute it a little bit? Just
Oh,
so-
sure. Oh,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. It's just you feel it working. You know,
Mhm.
just like if you put a little bit on a wound, you see it kind of bubbling up.
Right.
It's all that oxygen.
Yeah,
H2O2
it'll
it has an
rub
extra
off.
oxygen molecule.
Mhm.
That extra oxygen molecule, as soon as it hits a surface, it immediately attacks an organism.
Yeah.
That's how oxygen works. Same thing with like ozone therapy.
Uh-huh.
It's extra oxygen molecule. So as soon as it enters the body, it immediately goes after a pathogen. So
Wow.
virus, bacteria, whatever it can find, zaps it.
Mhm.
That's why oxygen is such a powerful therapy that, of course, is not used in conventional medicine.
Right.
But oxygen kills anything. You
I
know?
use that Aerobic Life. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Aerobic Life. It's MAG-07. It's a
I know about
capsule
it.
form, but it's supposed to oxygenate.
Yeah.
So you know about that. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I have the cell food,
Uh-huh.
which does the same thing.
Right.
You know, you drop it in water and it activates it and you drink it and
Mhm.
it increases oxygen by like 3 times in the body. And all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I just use food grade hydrogen peroxide, but that's controversial, you know.
Well, you're talking about doing that though just for the swishing.
No, I'm talking about the food grade hydrogen peroxide. It's 35%. It's a concentrate.
You drink it?
Well, you can just put drops in your water.
Oh,
Like I
okay.
said, we probably don't want to get on a whole big talk on
Right.
that, but
Okay.
The guy who accidentally took a swig of the straight stuff.
Mm-hmm.
one time.
You'd be in real trouble.
He was reaching in the fridge for milk and grabbed a bottle
oh,
of that.
that'll send you to the
instead.
hospital.
It
It
did.
won't kill you, but it'll send you to the hospital.
Yeah, cleaned him out.
Oh yeah. Oh, he just had a lot of oxygen in him. Yeah, it'll burn your tissues, so you'll bleed. So that's why they say it's dangerous, but it's oxygen. I mean, yeah, it burns your tissues and you bleed, but you heal like that.
Yeah.
So it's really not that big. But
Would you
anyway,
recommend, baking soda? It's not on here. A
absolutely.
lot of times people, I know
Yes.
my brother always used to combine.
Oh, baking soda's not on there?
So
Yeah, it totally
soda
should be.
and Essential oil.
Yeah, no, it's not on there.
Okay.
I'll add it. Yeah, definitely. Anything super cheap that you can use.
So what, you brush
Nice.
with it, you mean?
It's a bonus, right? Huh?
You brush with it or what?
Yeah, totally brush with.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and here's just a random little trick. If you got a thick coating on your tongue, you put a little layer of baking soda on your toothbrush or with your toothpaste, and that'll pull that white coating right off your tongue.
Huh.
If you got that thick coating on your tongue.
And you said that was toxins and junk.
That's junk coming back out. Yeah.
My brother, when he was still alive, he always used to brush his teeth with baking soda.
Uh-huh.
He'd also get a match, a regular match,
Uh-huh.
wood match, burn it, and then he'd take the charcoal, and he'd combine that with the baking soda and then brush his teeth.
Really?
And he always used to say his teeth were really in good shape.
That's interesting.
Little charcoal with it.
Charcoal's
Yeah.
supposed to help pull out poisons.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
Charcoal.
That's interesting.
I don't know why you use that charcoal.
Who knows? Who knows?
But that charcoal also will make you throw up if you cook.
Yeah, you don't want to do too much of that.
No, you don't want
Cool. Well, that's it.
to.
Thanks for coming.